So the X5 has been out for some time now, and based on your comments on my previous X5 videos and comparisons, a lot of you seems to have very mixed feelings about this camera, especially if you already have the X4. So I recently spent a few days in Hawaii to put this camera to the test and see if we could spot some significantly huge improvements over the X4 basically, based on our previous trips and long-term experience with the X4 here. So this is my ultimate down-to-earth, honest, unbiased, unsponsored travel review, I would say, of the Insta360 X5. So should you buy it or should you skip it? Let's find out. Now first off, let's start with low light versus the X4 here. This is something I've shot before, but I haven't really put it to the test like an actual use case, which we're doing when we're traveling. So this shot right here was captured with optimal and recommended settings for low light on the X4. And these clips were captured just by selecting pure video mode and pressing record on the X5. In my opinion, there is no real comparison here. The X5 is the clear winner, and if you are planning on capturing low light videos in the future, maybe you have an upcoming trip, the X5 is the camera to get. It's like having a GoPro and expect your low light videos to look amazing, though the X4 is actually usable in low light. It's just that the X5 is much better. So if you're planning on capturing any sort of low light videos on your next vacation, you probably want those to look just as good as those you capture in daylight. Another significant improvement to the X5 was also battery performance, heat dissipation, and less overheating basically. So throughout the time I've spent with the X5 now, I haven't experienced any overheating at all. And I would say this comes down to individual use, how you use it, where you use it, and so on. So if you're capturing a lot of static videos, whether this is time lapses or videos, you will most likely experience some sort of overheating at some point, especially if you keep it sitting in the sun. But as a travel camera, doing stuff like snorkeling, diving, hiking, walking, and driving, the chances of overheating are pretty low. And as you can see in some of these clips here, it was quite windy when we spent a few days in Hawaii now, which also helped cooling down the camera, which is another factor that plays a huge role when you're using this. So if you're using it in a windy condition, doesn't matter how hot it is, the wind will automatically cool down the camera, so you will have less chances of overheating. Now let's talk about versatility. This is something I always come back to when I make my videos of 360 camera versus something like the Action 5 here, which is a regular action camera. capturing your moments, vacations, road trips, b-rolls, and so on, all is doable with a regular action camera and your phone, even a drone. But there's only one camera that can do all of the above, which is a 360 camera. And before you start QQing in the comments about how bad the image coming from the X5 looks, which most of us already know, it's a 360 camera, not a point and shoot camera, and it's definitely not a drone. So because it's a 360 camera, it has two lenses which is combined, giving you the freedom to move around in post later and get the frame you want, instead of having that one single shot, and that's basically what you get. And because it does that, it means that we have 4K resolution in the dead center of the footage, and then it spreads out to whatever low res that you see on the edges, which is why it always looks good in the center, but looks a little bit worse out on the edges. But if you can look past the image quality and look at the actual benefits and the possibilities you have versus having one or two regular action cameras and a drone, I think we can all agree that no other single camera unit can capture videos and memorable moments like a 360 camera. So whether you like it or not, a 360 camera is the best action related camera you can get if you're not falling for that pixel peeping hype that everyone is so obsessed with nowadays. I mean, you have endless options with a 360 camera. Of course, the image quality is going to be a little bit less, but you have so much freedom in post that if you haven't used the 360 camera, you don't know what you're missing out on. And personally, I've been using the X2, X3, X4, and the X5 frequently, and way more than any other camera. And that's not because the image quality is crap, but because it's easier to use, captures more, and I have endless framing options later, which means I can go back and frame my videos exactly how I want them to be without having to worry about how I capture my videos when I'm out traveling, hiking, riding my bike, and so on, freediving, you name it. So it's an effortless camera to use. And I would take less image quality and 100% flexibility over a fixed lens than a decent image any day, basically. So if you're new to 360 cameras and this is the first time you're hearing about it, a 360 camera is basically something that captures everything in a 360 degrees fair. All angles, all aspects, and all you have to do is to press the record button and it will do everything for you. So this is a hike that I did earlier this year with the Philip and the Action 5 Pro. I'm not saying the Action 5 Pro is bad, but if you want the ability to capture everything like forward, sideways, up and down all at the same time, you need a 360 camera, or you need 6 regular action cameras to cover each direction. And if you look at the same hike here, but with the 360 camera, you can see how I can move around and set the frame exactly how I want without being limited to a fixed look. Also, in the 360 Studio app, I can change the perspective, add some keyframes, and export the clip in both vertical and horizontal aspects. And then after that, I can go back to the same clip and change the framing of it to something completely different. So instead of having one clip which is going in one direction, or one clip which has constant movement because you want to capture every single angle at the same time, but you didn't realize that you actually bought the wrong camera, you can record one clip with the X5 and then get multiple angles as many times as you want later, which is fantastic, and the main reason a 360 camera is my go-to travel camera. So for example, if you're making a video and you see that some of the clips are being shown over and over again, it can also be quite boring for the person watching that video. But when these clips are captured with a 360 camera, you can go back and change the angle of that clip and turn that exact same clip into a completely different clip. And this is just a small part of everything that you can do with a 360 camera compared to a straightforward regular action camera. Another unique thing with the 360 camera, and the main reason to use one, is of course the invisible selfie stick. This means that no matter how you hold or mount the camera, the selfie stick will be invisible. So because it has 2 lenses, one on each side here, where both lenses are recording 4K resolution, everything which is in between the 2 lenses here will be hidden. So it's much easier to get a wider perspective when you capture your videos. But of course, on a sunny day, the shadow of the selfie stick will be visible, but that's just how it is. And you can't really do anything about the shadow unless Insta360 figures out a way to remove this in the studio and in the mobile app by using some AI stuff, things in the future. That would actually be pretty cool. And for those of you that do a lot of snorkeling or freediving with a 360 camera, I only had a pre-production dive case that I received a very long time ago, so the stitching of these shots here were a little bit off, but if you look past the stitching, the quality of the footage is actually pretty decent underwater. And a pro tip here is to use pure video when you go snorkeling or diving, as the deeper you hold the camera or the deeper you go, the less light you'll get. So using pure video actually makes a tiny difference in the better way. So is the X5 really worth buying over a regular action camera? Yes. Is the X5 really worth buying over the X4? And if you have the X4, is it worth upgrading to the X5? I would say for general traveling, I would recommend the X5 over the X4 because you never know when you'll end up capturing some low light, and I assume that you want those low light videos to be just as good as the daylight videos you capture, and that's not going to be possible with the X4. The overall image quality of the X5 is also slightly better than the X4, and the battery life in 8K 30 FPS has been significantly increased. So if you consider all the small bits of improvements, the X5 is the one to get, especially if you're looking to get your first ever 360 camera. I think you're gonna have a much better experience as a new 360 camera user when you get the X5 over the X4, because you're not limited to when you can shoot, because this has a dedicated low light mode. And if you already have the X4, which is a fantastic camera by the way, it might be harder to justify the upgrade to the X5, especially if most of your shots are taken during the day. For sunset, for example, the X4 is also quite impressive in 5.7K at 30 FPS, which is the best settings for a low light, but when the sun goes down, there is a big difference between these two. Also, one of the bigger differences that I've noticed with these two cameras is also battery life. I was able to record on and off for about 4 hours with the X5, so when we went on this hike, I was able to capture multiple clips on the way up, as well as on the top, and also on the way down. And I also had just enough battery to snap a few shots with Frank here at the end of the day. Now, the biggest improvement I would say of the on the X5 versus the X4 is of course the changeable lenses. Thankfully, I didn't have to change mine on this trip, but I've also felt like more relaxed, I would say, when using it. I'm actually quite careful when it comes to using these 360 cameras because I know if I crack the lens, the camera is more or less useless and I'm gonna have a hard time finding a new one where I travel, most likely. But if this happened to my X5, and it almost did, I could just replace the lens immediately at the spot, which made it somewhat more relaxing, I would say. I didn't think too much of it because I was already having to spare lens kits in my backpack or 2 spare repair kits. So if it happened, I could just change it instantly, which is also a huge improvement of the X5 if you ask me. So probably the biggest reason to upgrade from the X4 if you find yourself sending it back to repair a few times, or if you're doing a bit of sketchy stuff like mountain biking, something that can really put your lens at risk, definitely go with the X5. That and of course low light. So because of the improvements on the X5, I saw no reason to use any of the cameras basically, as the X5 did everything I needed and more, and now also in low light. And just to compare a POV shot here that I captured with the Action 5 Pro some time ago, here is the exact same shot with the X5. So To me, there is a difference between these two cameras when it comes to image quality. It's noticeable, but it's not huge. And for versatility and general use, to me, there's a huge difference between them. And if I could only pick one camera right now, I was going to Hawaii tomorrow, let's say, and I could only grab one camera, it would be the X5, because it basically has everything. It has everything. It has single lens mode, 360 videos, and both of those can be used in low light, though single lens mode does not have pure video, but it has a better sensor, so it's more usable in low light than the X4. But of course, we all have different opinions, so I really want to hear your opinion or experience if you already have the X5 or the X4, or both the X4 and the X5, and is it something that you can recommend to others? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss my X5 drone video, which is coming up next. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye bye.